Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, and, well, you know who you are. I'm Useful Idiot Welcome, and today I want to talk about Palestine by way of Sweden. And that's the fact that now we have Sweden is going to recognize the state of Palestine. And this is a pretty big deal. And the reason why it's a pretty big deal is because it's the only quasi-vassal state of the United States and its influence that is going to recognize the Palestinian state. And it's rather disturbing for me to look at the list of all the countries who have recognized Palestine and those who haven't. And the particular situation we find ourselves in is in 1988 when Yasser Arafat unilaterally declared Palestine as a state. 90 countries immediately recognized Palestine, which is interesting in contrast to the creation of the Israeli state and how slow a lot of countries were to recognize the new state of Israel. But I digress. But out of the 193 countries represented in the United Nations, which is virtually every country on earth, 134 of those countries recognize Palestine, and so roughly 60 countries do not recognize Palestine for one reason or another. One of the countries that doesn't recognize Palestine for whatever reason is Myanmar. So that's one where one has to delve a little deeper to find out what the motivations are for not recognizing Palestine. But unfortunately, when you look at the list, it becomes quite obvious that it's a complete political ploy, and that the only countries that are really against the recognition and acceptance of the state of Palestine are the United States and Israel. And it's debatable who is the master state and who is the vassal state. Sometimes I think the United States controls Israel. Other times I think Israel controls the United States. I'm sure it's a little bit of both. But the fact is, it's a political chit, and the tragedy of the Palestinian people, the tragedy of Palestine, the hopes of a independent Palestinian state with all the rights that go along with it, that has become a pipe dream, is a political tool for a lot of countries, and that's very unfortunate, especially when we hear all this rhetoric about the rights of people for self-determination, national sovereignty, and aspirations. And so anyway, to get back to the main point, what we have is a block of the United States and its vassal states that has kept the Palestinian state from being created. That and the machinations of Israel itself, all the while claiming they want a two-state solution when actually they have a one-state solution, and Palestine is probably not part of that. And so we look at the list of states that do not recognize Palestine to this day: South Korea, Mexico, New Zealand, Australia, U.S., Canada, Colombia, and the entire Western Europe. So in other words, the entire rest of the world, when you see the map, which I've attached below, you'll see that virtually all of Latin America, except for Colombia, interestingly, which is a vassal state of the United States axis. And then we have all of Western Europe, but Eastern Europe is very much a supporter of the state of Palestine. And then, of course, like I say, Japan, South Korea, and Mexico, all vassal states of the United States, and therefore just politically do not recognize Palestine, which is a fairly interesting reason to do it. So to get back to the story of the day, now we have Sweden, who are breaking from this tradition. They're breaking from the tradition in Scandinavia that doesn't recognize Palestine. They're breaking from the tradition of the Eurozone that doesn't recognize Palestine. They're breaking from the tradition of U.S. Israeli vassal states who do not recognize Palestine. And that's a good thing. So we see some encouragement from Sweden to other countries. in the Eurozone to take that step as well, and that could get all the more closer to finally creating some kind of a Palestinian state. Of course, the major hurdle being coming to some sort of arrangement with Israel. And so there we have it. A small story, seemingly in the scheme of things, but a huge story actually in the scheme of things. Sweden recognizes the state of Palestine. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.